Welcome to What You Missed When You Didn't Exist. I am Corbett, and I am 53.
And I'm Lucy, and I'm 23.
Enjoy it while you can.
Woot woot. What are we talking about today, Dad?
What comes to mind when I say Vesuvius, Krakatoa, Kilauea?
Well, you lost me at those last two. I know Vesuvius. I don't know the rest of them. But I grew up in Wyoming, so what does that tell you about my volcano knowledge?
The volcano. But the thing is, those are foreign volcanoes. Well, with the exception of Kilauea, which technically is a Hawaiian one. But beside the point.
Foreign.
I'm going to talk about a real all-American volcano.
Okay.
Believe it or not, in 1980, volcano erupted on American continental soil. And it seems like the most unlikely thing you could possibly imagine, just because we're not in the tropics, we're not near some massive mountain, though there are a lot of mountains right through the western side, and the western and eastern side of the U.S. are covered in mountains, so I'm surprised we're not just coated in volcanoes by now, but still.
Yeah, and it wasn't Yellowstone that blew up.
That's true. Yeah, you grew up next to Yellowstone. I didn't grow up next to Yellowstone, so I never knew, what? We could die instantaneously if it ever erupts? But this one actually did erupt. May 18th, 1980. Mount St. Helens erupted. Now, Mount St. Helens is in the northwest, close to, I guess, Portland. I think it's like 60 miles from Portland, somewhere in there.
It's 52 miles northeast of Portland and 98 miles south of Seattle.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Look at your ability to Google.
I know. It's pretty awesome.
But it erupted. It was kind of a surprise. Nobody that I knew was aware of it. Now, granted, I lived in Texas, so we weren't exactly worried about anything. In Texas, there were some people who reported the sound of the explosion. I never heard anything. But then again, it was 1980. I was probably like 8. No, I was like 10. Almost 10. So I probably wasn't paying attention specifically. But I did notice that there was a massive cloud that covered a big chunk of the U.S. for about a month. It may have been maybe 2 to 3 weeks, but it felt like a really long time. It basically was like being in an overcast for a long time.
Was that the first time that it erupted, ever? Or, in a while?
It's the first time it became active, since the colonization of America, as far as anybody knows.
Yeah.
First time recorded. How about that?
Okay. Because now it's listed as an active volcano.
Well, this is something I didn't know when I did a little digging on it. It became active in 1980 when it erupted. Literally, the top of it blew off.
So that's why it's like a big old bowl in it.
Yeah. But when that happened, it became active, and it kept erupting until 2001?
The last eruption was 2004 to 2008.
Look at you doing your homework.
Yeah.
Well, I think 2001 to 2008 is like the settling or recess period, where it was kind of
basically
just a smoking hill at that point.
Yes.
But the actual eruptions, the earthquakes, and everything that came with it, happened at May 18th, 1980 is when it blew.
Was the big bang.
Right.
But not the Big Bang.
Well, it was pretty big. I mean, the entire top of the mountain was gone when it blew up. It took out, let's see, what was the toll on that? I think only like 50 people died.
No, that's not bad.
It could be, well, it's not great. It's
but Pompeii had it worse.
Okay, you got me there. It did destroy a whole lot of area, though. I know that. Like, entire neighborhoods were washed away. There were landslides. There were floods. I mean, it was like a 6.0 earthquake or something when it happened.
Whoa.
It was intensively bad. I mean, it was one of those national disasters. They happen.
You got the smoke, but did you get the effects?
No.
Of it? Oh.
No, I was way too... in Texas, I was way too far away.
So you just heard about it?
Yeah, well, news, and then the following, overcast. Because everybody in the western states pretty much got this sort of overcast area for a long time. I would say about a month, at least from memory.
Okay.
57 people was the total count dead from that event. There wasn't that many people in the area at the time, which is kind of surprising because it was May. And it seems like most people would be going out into nature and doing stuff because there was a lake at the base, and I know one of those or two of the people that were killed were in a boat in the lake, and that was totally washed.
Well, it's still there's still snow on it, but I guess the elevation's not that high. It's only 8,000.
Well, 8,000 is pretty high.
Well, I grew up in the Tetons, dude.
Well, the Tetons are only 6,000. So.
No, they're not. They're 14,000.
Well, no, at the peak. I'm talking about like, oh, okay, you're looking at the height of the mountain. Sorry. I'm talking
Yeah.
about elevation. We live at 6,000, so it's like,
Oh,
eh.
yes.
Anyway, but this was a massive explosion. It took out, the total was 57 people. Death toll. Two people were at the base of the hill. Two people were in the lake. I remember that because I remember the story behind it. They were out fishing that morning and they kind of caught the initial wave and did not make it out because
Mm.
like an entire forest deforested itself and dumped itself into that lake,
Whoa.
which you can still go down into that lake and see like all these trees, like an entire bed of trees, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trees just laying all over the place in the bottom of that lake.
That's kind of cool.
I guess.
I mean, it's not your typical lake bed. It's cool.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically the point I was wanting to tell you. Like, hey, there was a volcano in America. You just don't
Cool.
see that every day.
This is true. This is true. And people still go and visit it, even though it can still explode. Maybe, possibly.
Well, it's like anything can still explode if you try.
This is true. I was looking it up because it has Mount St. Helens listed as a stratovolcano.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what a stratovolcano was because I didn't pay attention in geography class.
Probably geology.
Earth
but go
science?
ahead.
Earth science? And a stratovolcano is known as a composite volcano, which is a large conical volcano with steep sides and a summit crater that's built up. It was like those volcanoes that just like erupted lava over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And so it built up that cone. And then when it finally like covered itself up, that's probably when it exploded. And so now it's not a cone anymore because it's missing the top half of the cone.
Yeah.
So it's probably going to do that over and over again.
Well, I would guess so. Well, they said it's no longer active as of 2001. They said it was no longer active.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of in a recess point up to 2008. Then they finally stopped tracking it, I think, or well, at least they declared like it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to be fair, though, we're all standing on lava everywhere. It's like water. Like if you dig down deep enough, you'll find water. Dig down deeper, you'll find lava.
Yeah, but conical volcanoes, stratovolcanoes.
Very important stuff to know.
Yeah, the kind of volcano matters. Yellowstone is technically a volcano. It's not a stratovolcano, but it is one.
It's just a matter of time. And that one will go and take half the country with it.
Yeah, exactly. We can't just teach people history. We got to teach them some science and geology.
And geography. We're teaching the
Geography.
world at this point.
Precisely. This is educational, y'all.
I don't think we never went to Mount St. Helens National Park, I don't believe. Or the monument?
No, the monument. No.
Yeah.
I don't think we went that far north.
Reagan established a monument for the people that died in it. And the amount of lives and property damage and everything that went with it. So
Yeah. The first ascent was in 1853, which is crazy because people were like living at that point.
Yes, people were living in 1853. It is a shock.
It was like past the Wild West times.
No,
Yeah.
that was that was about the time of the Civil War.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like past cowboy times.
Well, wait, it was before the Civil War? Now I feel like I don't know.
The Civil War was 1860.
Before the Civil War. I feel silly now.
Look at you not knowing your history.
Yeah, well.
And that was before both of us were born.
So I guess my question to you is, do you feel like we learned anything from a volcano in the U.S. that you really don't even know about?
Well, I learned that it's geology and not
boy.
geography, so that's good. I mean, I remember hearing about Mount St. Helens, but I was like in elementary school, so I think it was when it was still doing its whateverness, that little like cloud poofy thing, you know? The little like, that thing.
Your science skills are killing me right now.
Yep.
That's okay.
And I feel like I am familiar with all of the geology that goes on because I grew up in the Tetons. So I knew like, you know, the tectonic plates move and that things explode but I haven't seen, I guess I haven't experienced a personal tragic event like that. Like, this makes me terrible, but like, I'm begging to experience a hurricane. And I know that so many people lose their lives in a hurricane because I have, like, technically lived through it, but I haven't experienced it firsthand. So I'm kind of like you in Texas when Mount St. Helens exploded, and you're like, whoa, the clouds are different.
Well, it just shows how impactful something like that can happen from several thousand miles away.
Yeah. So it's a little bit different, I guess, because I haven't grown up with something quite like that.
Well, you live in Texas now, so
I live in Texas now, but the last hurricane that we had, I was up in Wyoming.
Good call.
And I missed it.
I don't know if you really want to be through one of those or anything around it, really, but sure, I guess you
Yeah, it's kind of a bucket list thing, which is terrible to say, but it's
want to be
just.
in a horrible tragedy. I think you're okay.
Which is ridiculous. And maybe it's because of COVID that I'm like numb to that now. Like, oh yeah, I've lived through a world pandemic. What else could happen?
Good point.
So I don't know. I think there's still those volcanoes in Hawaii that always go off, but it sounds like they're kind of used to that based on the fact that it barely made the news. Or maybe people just don't care about it enough.
Well, it's like tornadoes in East Texas. That's what I grew up with.
True.
I've been through several tornadoes, and I'm pretty much numb to it. Like, yeah, it's a tornado. What else do you want? And
Yeah.
it's like hurricanes in Florida. They happen so often, people just like, okay, we'll board up today, and we'll be back to work tomorrow. And it's just like the heavy snowfalls we get in Wyoming. People are like, what? You're going to work with like 4 feet of snow that just dropped? Like, yeah, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, gotta grab the snowmobile and just drive on through it.
I mean, when I lived in California, it was the same way with earthquakes. Everybody just kind of like, oh, yeah, earthquake, whatever. And the first couple times you freak out, like, holy heck, everything's gonna, the world's exploding. I don't
Uh-huh.
know. And then you're like, whatever, I got to get to work.
Yeah,
You get used to your local trauma.
this is true. Well, now, Dad, here's the question.
Mm,
Because this holiday season, you've been kind of Scroogey. And you've been very negative and thinking the world's going to end in a couple years anyway. Is the world really going to end in a couple of years anyway?
nah, probably not.
This is some insider stuff, y'all.
Oh, boy.
Been very negative. Negative Nancy lately.
Nah, it's been a rough year. Everybody's ready to get started with whatever we're going to do. I still stand by, who was it, George Carlin? I think it was George Carlin who said that ultimately, he was talking about climate change. Like, is climate change going to end the world? Like, nah, world's going to be fine. We're going to be gone. So,
Yeah.
like, I pretty much stand by that statement. The world is pretty durable.
The world is very durable.
Yeah, you forget about tectonic plates and you forget about the shifts of the stuff. I think for me as a kid, it blew me away just because, like, holy heck, there's a volcano in my country. It seems like something that only those other countries have to deal with, but realistically, anybody who lives on the planet seems to probably have to deal with that at some point.
So you don't consider Hawaii part of the country?
Eh,
Oh man. See, Mount St. Helens is cool because it is on the continent. I will give you that. But I don't know, I just didn't experience it, so I don't really get the wow factor of it. You know, people are like, "We're going to go visit it." And I'm like, "Cool. A mountain? I live by those. Why don't I just go visit those?"
well, now who's being a negative Nancy?
I know. Because I was spoiled. You see what you did?
I
See what you
spoiled
did?
you by showing you mountains?
Yep. Yep. I got numb to the mountains. Everyone's like, how great is it to grow up in, Jackson Hole, Wyoming? It's fine, I guess. What about the Tetons? Yeah, I see those every day, dude. They get kind of old. So,
And
look
now,
what you
now
did.
you live in Houston, so when a dog goes by on a jet ski, you're like, "Woo, look at that!"
No, it's more like, oh yeah, there's a cockroach. Cool. Whereas before I was like, oh my gosh.
Mm,
It's a little bit different in the city.
live in the city life.
Now I look at skyscrapers and go, whoa, they're so cool. And everyone else is like, okay.
Yeah, that's true. Pretty soon you'll be numb to that too, and then you'll be on to the next thing. And then you'll get old and everything is just dumb.
So that's where you're at then.
Kind of.
Ooh, roasted.
Yeah. So Mount St. Helens was pretty destructive. It was very destructive, and it clouded the most of the U.S. for at least a month, probably longer for anybody who was closer to it. But I guess a weird correlation is there was also a lot of life that came out of it.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense. I feel like most natural disasters that happen, or anything in the world that really happens, people find community and try to find, comfort within bad times. I feel like that makes sense.
For one thing, there were a higher amount of births that month because of this tectonic shift. Your uncle Chase was one of them. He was born the day after, and most hospitals showed like an influx. I think of like 20% more than normal births that month. I
What?
don't know if they were all premature or they were all just coincidentally right then.
Mm-hmm.
There was an article that kind of wrote out the idea that 9 months after there was some more births after that, which those babies are now 40 some odd years old. So you know who you are.
Hey, welcome to your 40s. Actually,
Yeah.
you've been in your 40s. Just kidding. Welcome to your almost 50s. Whoop, whoop.
I was talking with your grandparents because they were in Idaho at the time, and Idaho's right across the border from Washington. Washington is right where you get the idea.
Mm-hmm.
There was a coworker they had at the college because they worked at Rick's college, but he went back in the summer for a harvest to farm and harvest stuff. And apparently the farm that was very close to Mount St. Helens was covered in so much ash, it was destroyed. There was no way they could harvest anything, and it would take massive effort to retill the soil to make it good again. I'm sure by now it's fine. That's a volcano in America for you.
Oh, that's crazy. Oh my gosh, they were called ash babies. That was like their
Really?
nickname. Yeah. Babies that were born like afterwards and then like leading up, well, I guess 9 months after ish. Like in that time frame, within that year, they're called ash
So next
babies.
time you see your uncle, you can say, "Hey, Ash, baby."
Oh my god, she's gonna give me a weird look. I'm not gonna do
He's not
that.
going to know what you're talking about. I don't think he's ever thought about it. That's natural disasters for you.
Natural disasters. Find your community, bunker up, make baby.
And that's advice from a teacher.
There you go.
Okay, so for what you missed when you didn't exist, this was the show.
Bye.